Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Hi, I'm Larry.
Tara.
Hello, I'm Renny.
And I'm Josh. And the Stewart's root beer is much more evident this way. We just had to switch phones, but we did not switch participants. So it's always great to have you here, Professor Hartman. We did switch one participant, though.
I'm always glad to be there.
We're glad to have you as well, Renny. And it's great to have you back, Tara.
It's great to be back.
Alrighty. We are going to be going over an ancient world lit play written by Aeschylus, and that is Agamemnon, which is the first in the Orestia trilogy. The discussion starter that I have for this is: what kind of difference do you think this play would have had if the characters spent more time talking to each other rather than the chorus?
Okay, the problem with that question is Aeschylus is the first known full playwright in ancient Greece. And he was working in a medium that was just beginning to develop. And I think one of the reasons that they have structure, of course, it's in poetry. It has a revelation scene. It's not really the triangle for Shakespeare. Is that everybody knew the story. After all, the Trojan War was, according to the Greeks, like 1174. And they considered it a real event. And they all knew the story. So they only have to kind of tell the story. And that's all that they do. The chorus tells you history, tells you what everybody says, tells you how things should be. It's just a constant common. It's not exactly, we don't exactly have a plot narrative the way we would expect in a regular novel or modern play at all. I read this for the first time. I know the story completely, but I had never read the Orestia. There are only two complete trilogies available to us. There are only like 15 or 16 ancient Greek plays extent that we have the complete plays. Have 1,000 years that they were written. That's how good the Muslims and the Christians were at destroying the ancient world. But you have Sophocles, the Odyssey.
Homer.
Can't even think of the name.
Are you talking about Homer or Euripides?
No. Sophocles is the only one that has another trilogy.
Not Oedipus.
Oedipus.
It's the epic cycle, yes. And so we only have this. They probably had lots of trilogies because they presented the plays from morning to evening. They presented 3 plays a day. So there were probably a lot of trilogies. We just don't have them. I just thought this was terrific because I hadn't read it previously. And how they developed Clytemnestra. I'm surprised they call it the Agamemnon when it's really about her.
I mean, she's a major antagonist to this, and one of those noteworthy antagonists. I think that with response to the one question, that you are correct, that Aeschylus is the very first playwright to go against the structure in which the characters only spoke with the chorus.
Yeah, that we know, and they only had 2 actors.
However, he doesn't adhere to that. He doesn't stray away from that much because there is still a lot of interaction between the characters and the chorus. There's very little interaction between characters amongst one another. Personally,
they're hard to do. They only have 2 actors. Sophocles will give you a 3rd actor, and the Romans will toss in a 4th actor. But yeah, he's restricted into how people can talk to each other. He uses a lot of chorus. There's much more chorus in this than I've seen in anything else. So he wanted to tell everyone what everybody knew. He wanted to tell them again.
Yeah, there was definitely much more telling than there was showing.
Yes.
But I would say, from a structural standpoint, if I'm looking at it you really shouldn't put it into modern times, but if I decided to do so because that's the way that I want to look at things on this occasion, I think that it was a bit to the. I think that this would have been far better if you had the characters interacting with each other, because I think that it would have been very exciting to see Agamemnon and Clytemnestra. Uh, I think that Cassandra was an interesting character, but it was annoying that she forecasted what was going to happen before it actually did, because it would have been very interesting to use the context of the other characters' interactions and then show what it was that happened.
Yeah, but they didn't do that in any of the Greek plays, really, at all. So you could redo the play and show it in a different structure, maybe, but they didn't. They, for whatever reasons that they were restricted to or felt restricted to, they don't have it in most of the plays at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost no real personal interaction and development between, even in Sophocles.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got at least a third actor in there.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring Larry and Tara in, because I know Larry brought up, Larry took a jab in our previous discussion about the character, about the chorus being the main character in this play, which I don't think he's too far off.
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of chorus.
How would you guys answer the discussion starter?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, because the chorus is obviously necessary for me, as somebody who does not know much about Greek history, and I wouldn't have known this story. So I do need, a large degree of exposition. So at one point, I want to say that, but I also see where you're coming from, where if we had some more characterization, some more development, it would have been, it would have been a different play.
Mm.
So it's hard to say.
Tara?
I would have wanted to see more character reaction, like interactions as well, like a little bit of the chorus, like more, because it's just I had to read it 3 times to get it.
It was. I think that. I mean, it's interesting when you look at the background history between, because Agamemnon was on the same voyage as Odysseus from the Odyssey. They were coming home from the Trojan War. Odysseus had many more hurdles on his, because he had a bunch of the people on his crew were a bunch of bumbling fools that got into every mess that they can come across.
Well, not only that, he got cursed by Poseidon to wander for 10 years. So he did.
And so, yeah, he cursed him with some bumbling people that could create a problem out of a pebble. But Odysseus comes home to a much more loving and accepting wife in Penelope, who is welcomes him with open arms, whereas Agamemnon comes home to Clytemnestra, which is my tongue twister, who's left him for his cousin behind his back in Aegisthus. Aegisthus, and Aegisthus organizes the murder of Agamemnon, and Agamemnon comes home to a literal bloodbath in his own blood.
Mm.
Well, that's because he killed their daughter Iphigenia. It's a revenge.
He did kill her, huh? Because it's left a little bit ambiguous in the play. They say that
He does.
He killed
He
her.
theoretically sacrifices her to Artemis, but then you'll find out if you read the third play here, Artemis did not accept the sacrifice and took her away to Taurus, which would be, I don't know, like today in Lebanon or something. And then both his other brother and sister, Orestes, who they say here is in exile, he's going to come home and kill his mother in revenge for her killing his father. And then at the third play, you're going to see Iphigenia has become priestess of Artemis someplace else in the two sisters and the brother get to reunite. So it's a good ending after 3 plays.
Really?
But, yeah, but the kids are not in this.
It takes 3 plays.
It's a trilogy.
It's a trilogy. This
yeah.
is just the play.
Yeah, the second part is where Agamemnon's in the libation bearers. Agamemnon's son seeks, seeks revenge and
Yes.
kills his mother.
Mm.
And then and then you have Eumenides is the third play.
Man, nobody does tragedy like the Greeks. I tell you
Yes.
what.
Oh yeah, they like their tragedy.
It was interesting. Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides were in contests related to their plays, and Aeschylus outdid both of them.
Interesting.
Which, I mean, Aeschylus is a wonderful writer. And I remember Robert F. Kennedy, the father, he quoted him when giving his, when he made the announcement about Dr. Martin Luther King being shot and killed.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
What was that quote? You know?
You know what? I could probably tell you right offhand. I just have to pull out a book. I have a complete book of his speeches. That's a biography.
Yeah, but I did find that the story was very poetically written. I agree with that. I mean, the language in it, especially in the beginning, I was really touched by the description of the people going off to war and how the cries reach out into the heavens and the birds of war and all that. It was like, wow, this is really good writing.
Okay.
That's what I found.
Yeah. I like that too.
Yeah.
Well,
You're writing.
to the ancient Greeks, the Iliad and the Odyssey were like what they would call a Bible. They believed in it literally, and the gods in it literally, and how they behaved. And then they retold these stories over and over because in the Greek plays, they are like the same myths and legends retold as drama.
Yes.
They were just taken with it. They put them on vases, they put them on walls, or we wouldn't have them. That's how we get them.
Yes,
Or they would have disappeared. We wouldn't have them. They put them on and everything.
I got the quote.
It's interesting what they chose to write about, right? Like this story, it seems like everything else going around would have been more interesting. Like the stuff that came before it, where you have the one king feeding the other king his children on a.
Yeah, the Atreus. I think that's also because they're all cursed. Oedipus's family had the same problem. It came down to them as a curse, and it came down from the Atreid, from the great-grandfather there as a curse also. So Agamemnon was the high king, and he took everybody to Troy, and actually they did win after 10 years. So he should have come home to great excitement, but she'd been planning to kill him for 10 years, and she did.
Indeed. You have that quote, Josh?
I do have the quote. He was responding. It was during his speech about the death of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The Aeschylus quote was, "In our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart until, in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's terrific. I don't remember it. I was pregnant with my son when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated.
That was Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. Yeah, he was shot and killed 63 days later.
Yeah.
So it was 2 months later, because he had just won the California primary for 1968 for the presidency.
I saw his funeral. My mother called me because she didn't want me to go out in the mob and have a miscarriage or something. So I saw they had him lay in state at St. Patrick's in New York. And then, a la Lincoln, they had an old train and they had brought out an old steamer for the engine, and they draped it all in black. And it ran down. You could see I went out the Palisades, well, thousands of people did, and you could see the train pass as they left New Jersey.
You remember that there was a train running
Yeah.
because his son made reference to that.
Junior?
Yes.
Yes, RFK Jr.
Yes, I like him too.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
actually did not, when I was younger, I did not like Robert at all. But now I know he was the brightest of them, and I wish he had been a president.
I think he was probably one of the best speakers of all time, and one of the best ideologues of all time. There were some decisions that he made that put himself and his brother's administration into hot water. But I think that he was somebody that could really move a crowd.
Yeah, he was very courageous as well. To go after the Teamsters the way he did and everything like that. Very courageous man.
As a manager, he got his brother elected, and then as an AG, he was the last one that actually fought organized crime, which is one of the reasons some of the reasons that supposedly both of them got assassinated.
Yeah, there were certainly a lot of hands in that pie.
Yes.
Already. As far back to the play at hand, I mean, because we could really have, if we had Dr. if we had Dr. Esposito.
Well, actually, in some ways, since we had two assassinations at the same time, that kind of material is what makes up the Greek plays.
Yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We have Cassandra and Agamemnon right here.
Yes.
Not too far off.
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, that it is very. I didn't think of it that way. Even though, Cassandra was she was a Trojan captive,
Yes,
and
she was a princess. She was Hector's sister. And
Mhm.
she'd been condemned by Apollo to be a perfect seeress, but never to be believed. So she was treated as a nut.
Because she didn't want to have sex with him, so he spit in her mouth.
She wouldn't yield to him.
Yeah, that was a lot of the Greek gods were much more sexually motivated than is brought upon in when you learn about Greek mythology in school.
Yeah.
But
what a curse! I mean, that is some curse, man. To always know what's going to happen, but to nobody believe you. Wow.
Yes. Well, yeah. What they did, it's from the Odyssey. I think it's book 5. When they have the Trojan horse, she tells them, "Don't bring that horse in here, you idiots." And they say, "We don't believe anything you say." They do it anyway.
And I wonder, and they'll even come back and say, "Oh yeah, you're right." They don't even do that. They don't even acknowledge that. Oh, maybe she did tell the truth, and because no one's gonna believe her because she wouldn't sleep with him, so no one's gonna believe it. But after the thing happened, no one said it. Oh well, maybe she was right. And then probably did, and then forgot all over again when she says it because
Made the next prediction. Yeah.
Okay, then I think.
Well, I have to tell you how we don't see too much of Agamemnon, although what we do see of him is not really likable. Of course, Achilles hated him. But I would think it would have been smart to delay bringing Cassandra as his prime concubine in front of his wife. But he didn't do that.
Honey, we're home.
Yes, how are you?
Yeah.
How was your day at the office?
Alrighty then. Do we have anything else anybody wanted to bring up?
I mean,
No, I thought it was fascinating and interesting, and I don't know how you would do it on stage exactly, because there isn't much kind of action at all. And you don't see the murder because that's always off stage. They don't do anything on stage in the Greek plays like that.
you can see it on YouTube.
I think there's an incredible. You look really deeply at Clytemnestra, a woman who's been wounded and going to have revenge. I mean, that is just really bright and shining red coming off the play.
Yeah.
And then even though she was there left to be in charge or whatever too, and they kept referring to her acting like a man.
Yeah, because she was left to run everything.
Yeah.
She took his cousin there, Aeschylus, put him on the throne in place of Agamemnon. He's a cousin, but of course he wasn't a real king.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he wants to kill Agamemnon too, because he'd be in line for being the king.
And then he wants to kill everybody that disagrees with what his decision to do that. He's like, he's going to be a tyrant. You get the feeling he's really going to be brutal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
They were bad times if you weren't on the right place at the right time.
Yes. What was I going to? Oh yeah, you can see a production of it. I think the BBC did one in the 80s. It's on YouTube. You can watch.
I'll take a look.
Yeah. They do it pretty traditionally too, where they're all wearing the masks and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all men.
Well, we have the watchmen, we have the guard, we have Clytemnestra, the chorus, we have Cassandra, at the end we have the Estus. I better look at that. I'll look that up because I don't know how much action that you can really get.
There isn't much. No, it's just, it is what it is. Everything happens off stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
He did a lot of historical influence. Yes. I like it. I like the poetry. I like the translation. Sometimes the translations aren't very good, but I think this is an excellent translation.
My version was, I'm trying to see who translated my version.
Yeah, there are different versions too.
Mine was from Oxford University Press.
Mine I got free online. What
Yeah, I don't know what version I got.
I went to people who actually read free the domain books a lot, and they stared right to me, so I didn't have to do the deep dirt.
Yeah. One thing that I did notice though from looking at different versions is that it's interesting that the parts that rhyme, they come up with different what do you want to call it? Different phrases for how to translate it, but it all rhymes at the same places. So
Actually, the Greeks didn't have rhyme. Rhyme wasn't invented until the Robin Hood ballads of the 12, 13, 1400s. They didn't use rhyme. They can certainly do it in a translation if they want to.
Yeah,
It
and they
wouldn't be in the play.
That's interesting. That's interesting because it does appear in the two different translations that I was looking at, and it's always at the same point too. So I wonder why or how they decided that it was important.
Kind of tradition in the translation, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay.
Alrighty then. Do we have any final thoughts?
I thought it was interesting. I actually went online and looked up a little bit more about it, cause I don't know. Sometimes if I'm not in a class reading this, some stuff. It's part of my language processing disorder, so sometimes I have to look at a video of it, and I found a video that broke it down for me, and then I understood everything.
I think that's very helpful, and I think that it helps to do background research on something like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think if you don't know the ancient Greek background to this, it means a lot less.
Yeah.
And I like it because I know a lot of that stuff. I don't know how that works with everybody else.
Yeah.
It is, I would say, Sophocles is better in that people really talk to each other. The king talks to Antigone. Antigone talks to her fiancé. The guard has an argument with the king. And it actually takes place in the dialogue, and you're going to see it on stage. We don't really quite have anything like that. We do have some back and forth with Cassandra and the chorus, but we don't see too much among individuals themselves talking back and forth.
No, just that part. The only one I could think of is just when the Queen and Agamemnon are talking about whether or not he's going to take his shoes off and walk up on the tapestries.
Yeah, she put out all the purple dresses and red rugs for him to. And I don't know why he objected to that, because purple is the color of majesty. But regardless, I thought it was good. Who suggested reading it?
I did. I picked it.
Terrific.
I wanted to incorporate a work of ancient world literature into the schedule, and
Very, very good idea.
it was a challenge, but I think that it's something I can keep keep up with and maybe expand on.
It was a good challenge. It was a challenge that you learned something about it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
It made me go and look up breakdown videos and ask some friends who are that teach Greek.
The one thing
Not
that would
Greek, but that teaches this stuff kind of stuff.
Yeah.
the one thing that would challenge me is actually rating it, because I mean it is a play, so we would rate it 0 to 5 stars, half stars permitted. But the tough thing is, I think that this play would be better if the characters interacted with each other. I think that if it was written later and with a more current structure, I think that this would have been very intriguing.
Yes.
But I don't think it would be necessarily fair to give it I think for what the package is worth, I'd give it 3 stars. However, I think that as a story itself, I think that it would get much more if it was written in a more current
style.
in a more modern, or at least a bit more forward in time, where with interacting characters, I think that I would have given it at least 4 stars.
Yeah, same thing.
But because I think it would have been interesting to see the chemistry between Agamemnon and Clytemnestra and her,
His wife.
yes, his wife Cassandra. I think that Aeschylus would be. I think that having his cousin. I think that just that interaction would be really intriguing. It would be. I think it would be jacked up. I think
the other thing is, and I'm going to read them because I never read them. There's 2 more plays, and they probably is a united unit in a sense. We're just reading like a third of it.
Right.
That's part of. I don't know. I know the story, but I have not read all the plays. This is the first time I read the Agamemnon. I really enjoyed that opportunity.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. I was really impressed with the poetic structure of it. Like I was saying earlier, it was really something else. Really well written, from a poetic standpoint. Not necessarily from a narrative standpoint, but just the language.
Aeschylus is a really good writer.
Yeah, it's really, really talented.
And how would you guys rate it?
Oh boy, like you said, that's tough because it is to the author. It is brand new.
You can kind of do what I
medium
did, because I believe in an equal execution where I'm not going to make.
You don't want to be anachronistic, right? With it.
Yeah, I don't make rules up that only I get leeway for. I'm not like Simon Cowell.
Yeah. Well, I'd probably go 4 stars. I mean, I found it every bit as compelling as Julius Caesar, so I would say, from that standpoint, I would say 4 stars.
I'll say 3 stars for the same reasons as Josh said.
Yeah, I'm going to do 3.5 or 3 1/3. If the others are 3 1/3, eventually I get to 100. I have to see the other 2 plays really to judge, but I did enjoy reading it, and I did like the presentation of. And you have to remember, this was kind of sung like an opera in some way when they actually produced it back then. There was singing and dancing. We don't see any of that. We don't know what the music was like or anything else.
Yeah.
But it's very powerful. Even if you never knew any of the background, but what they give you, I think by the time she kills her husband, it is very powerful. It affects you very strongly. Yeah. So I think it's a 3.5 or 3 1/3.
Okay.
And these stories they stand the test of time. I mean,
They've
for
been
a
around
reason.
for 4,000 years.
Yes, because of how compelling they are. I mean, the idea of feeding somebody's children to them in a stew.
Oh, well, they have a lot of patricides, matricides, fratricides. We have so many words for killing our relatives. That must have been something that was popularly done.
And the way that they did things back then, and it's interesting to see how people conveyed something that was either inappropriate or graphic without actually setting it out right. Kind of like Soylent Green, the movie. If you're interested in checking out the Orestian trilogy, here is my copy. This is part of my complete Aeschylus collection. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.